back with another patient here. We've got a little pigeon. This little guy came to us from someone who found him on the sidewalk, and when they approached him, he was just kind of huddled up against a wall. When they approached him, they were able to just pick him up. He didn't fly away, and usually that's a sign that something is definitely wrong, and we want to get that checked out. So they brought him into us. When he got here, he is able to fly, and he can actually make it, up pretty high, so there's nothing wrong with his wings, but he's been reluctant to stand up, just kind of generally weak, very thin. He's also pretty young. We may actually be able to hear him squeak at some point during this video. The young pigeons are called squeakers by a lot of people because of the noise they make, so he's probably 5-6 weeks old, something like that. So he would still be getting a little bit of support from his parents, but we would expect him to be able to feed himself, fly, escape danger, including people trying to pick him up. So something's going on with this little guy. And indeed, when we ran a fecal test, when he first came in, we discovered a ton of parasites, like a really, really heavy parasite load. So that's definitely a contributing factor. He had medication for that, cleared up some, but not all of the parasites, so he's kind of on an ongoing medication schedule just to clear all of that up. But he's still not really gaining weight the way we want him to, despite the fact that he's pretty active, he can fly, he's standing up a little bit better now. There's still something going on with this guy. So one of the things that can happen a lot with pigeons, especially in an urban setting, is lead poisoning. They are foraging on the ground, they're bathing in road puddles that might be contaminated, they might be picking up lead paint chips. So it is relatively common to see in urban pigeons, especially in young guys. And with young pigeons, as with young people, lead can cause all kinds of systemic problems and neurological problems. So that could be a contributing factor to why he's still weak, still not really gaining weight appropriately. So we're gonna draw some blood, run a lead test with our lead test machine, and just see if maybe that's something that else that's going on with him. So you can hear him squeaking there. It's a sure sign you've got a young pigeon on your hands.
So we've just got him on his side here, and we're gonna just do a quick alcohol swab to expose this little vein. We'll try and get just a very small amount of blood, so we'll hope that he's got good blood pressure here.
Here we go.
There we are, that's plenty.
Luckily it doesn't take much blood to run the blood sample for the lead test.
So we fill up our little capillary tube here. And then the sample is dispensed into this tube, which has a liquid reagent at the bottom. So just then we have to mix it a few times so that we mix the blood well with the reagent in there. And while we do that, we'll get our test strip prepared. So this little machine here, it's very important, and we're very fortunate to have one. Not a lot of facilities have their own. The tests can be fairly expensive. When we were sending them away, we were spending $20 or more per sample. Having the test kit here ourselves, we're only paying about $8 per sample, which means that we can test more frequently as needed. We don't have to conserve as much with our testing, so it does help us keep closer track of the progress. So that's just about ready there. I'm going to grab a little pipette and we'll put a small sample right on the reader. So you can see that the blood has darkened and changed color while it reacted. And all we need is a drop right on our little sample strip. So in 180 seconds, we will have our lead results. So lead testing is really important in a lot of our birds and even some of our mammals. So as Chris mentioned, we do see lead quite frequently in pigeons because they're urban birds, they're picking up their food off the ground, they're bathing in contaminated water. We will frequently see lead poisoning also in raptors and waterfowl. In raptors, sometimes it's because they're shot, other times it's because they eat a lot of birds that have high lead levels, like pigeons and doves. In waterfowl, they're dabbling birds, so they're often picking up lead weights or things in the water when they're dabbling, so they end up with high lead as well. And we test all of these species on a regular basis. As we were mentioning earlier, with lead, sometimes the symptoms can be anything from just a generalized weakness to severe neurological symptoms like tremors, head tilts, ataxia, so not being able to move or walk properly. Some birds can have high lead levels and show no symptoms, and some birds can have lower levels and have really severe symptoms, so it really depends on the individual. And anytime we're seeing symptoms of weakness and not wanting to stand, and we don't have any physical symptoms to explain that, so no sign of head trauma or predator attack or anything like that, lead is going to be one of our first guesses. So the ability to run those tests and to do them quickly and as frequently as needed is really important. If it turns out not to be lead, then we want to take the next step. And one of the things that we're raising funds for today is a centrifuge, which will help us to, again, take small samples of blood, spin them down, and that'll allow us to see things like total protein, the Buffy code or the white blood cell level in the blood, and that can tell us everything from anorexia and starvation up to infections. And having a centrifuge to be able to spin those blood samples is going to help improve our diagnostic capabilities. And the better able we are to diagnose the problems, the better we'll be able to treat these animals. So while we're waiting for the blood test to finish, I'm just going to put my gloves back on, and we'll give him his medication. So he does have a high level of parasites, and birds with parasites, pretty much any wild animal, has some level of parasite in their blood at all times. Sorry, not in their blood, in their body at all times. Blood parasites would be a problem. So he had yeast, he had worms, and we're treating for those. Because if he's compromised with something, either just, again, the weakness or lead toxicity, that's going to give the parasites the opportunity to grow and spread and become unmanageable for him. So treating those parasites will help him with his overall progress. He's doing okay?
Yep.
I think our blood test just finished.
Birds can take a while for their blood to coagulate, so sometimes you have to hold off on the blood draw site a little bit longer than you might think with a mammal or something like that, so it is slowing off though. That's why I'm holding him like this, just still pinching his leg.
So we've got our lead test results, and our result is 11.9 micrograms per deciliter, which is not high, but it's higher than we would like to see. So it's over what we would call the treatment threshold, where once he's above about 10 micrograms per deciliter of lead in his blood, that's when we're going to want to start treating. And we do something called chelation therapy. So we're going to be providing him drugs that will help bind to the lead and draw it out of the body. He'll be able to excrete it. and that's going to help his blood levels go down. So we'll start that treatment. He'll be on that for 5 days. We take a break for 3 days, retest him, and continue to do that cycle as long as needed to help get his blood levels down to a manageable level. While he's on that chelation therapy, we have to provide fluid support, nutritional support, so he'll need to be tube fed every day. And we'll have to make sure that we're monitoring those parasite levels as well, so that he continues to improve and is able to process his food and digest things as he needs to be. So thanks again for stopping in and joining us today, for seeing our process for lead testing our patients, and hopefully you'll be able to donate, help support our ability to improve our diagnostic capabilities, to get a centrifuge to help us spin more blood samples and be more accurate with our diagnostic testing. Thanks again, and we'll see you later.